I'm back. I don't know why I always say I'm back when I get on camera. Like, no shit, you guys can see me. Dude, I don't know how to start these videos. Anyway, I'm going to recap another past life regression for you guys that I did maybe like a month or two ago. I've been meaning to record this one for a while, and it's just so good. I didn't know how to break it up into a digestible video. So I'm just going to tell you like a small part of it, and the rest I'm going to save for another time. This regression that I'm going to get into today is someone who went back to another alien lifetime. But not only that, they learned in this regression that the life that they are currently living is their first incarnation as a human. What I think is really funny about this is I'm always talking to the people that I work with for like an hour or so before we even get into the regression. And this girl was convinced that she would have the most normal human past lives. So it's just funny to think that she was totally expecting something normal, and that is not what we got at all. So we got her relaxed and comfortable, and we started the regression, except she didn't immediately go to a past life. She actually saw herself on the day she was born in the hospital room. This can happen sometimes. People don't always go to past lives when we do this. If there's something that needs to be addressed in the current lifetime, we can also go to the current lifetime. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's something there that we need to address. So clearly there's something significant here that we need to uncover. So I start asking her questions about who's around, what does she see, what does she feel. She sees that she's in the room with her mom, but her mom is perfectly fine. Her mom seems very loving towards her and is very happy that she just had a baby. There's no one else in the room, so nothing crazy is going on in this scenario. So then I start asking my client more about how she feels. And that's when we notice that she's actually highly anxious in this moment. And there doesn't seem to be a reason why. Everything else around her is going wonderfully. Like, she has a beautiful, loving, wonderful mom. So what can possibly be making my client feel anxious on the day that she's born? She's literally minutes old. Nothing has happened that would have instilled fear in her so that she would feel this way. So basically I realized something had to have happened prior to her being born that's making her highly anxious here in this human world. I end up backing her up in time till the time before she was born, and now she doesn't have a body. She just sees blackness and she's kind of in this holding space. But her anxiety is dissipating. So we have to go back a little bit further because we're still not understanding why she was born so anxious. So I actually take her back and have her move to the point in time where she's deciding to incarnate into her current body. Let's see what went into making this decision. Now, I'm totally expecting her to be some sort of light being. Maybe she's with like a council of light and they're discussing her incarnating on Earth, something like that. But if I've learned anything from doing this work, is that my assumptions don't mean shit half the time. So when I take her back to this point in time, the first thing she sees is actually like a TV screen, and she's looking around and honestly sounds quite confused, and it's like, it's all very like mechanical. So this is odd. This is not like the beautiful, ethereal, heavenly scene that I was expecting. She's in a very mechanical place. So now I'm wondering if she's even a light being, if she's even in spirit form. And I ask her to perceive if she has a body, and she says she feels that she does. So then I have her look down at her feet so we can get a feel of like, what does this body even look like? Like, maybe I accidentally took her to a past life and she's not at that point where she's deciding on her Earth incarnation, right? Sometimes that could happen. Well, she looks down at her feet and she tells me that they're webbed. So she has webbed feet, and I have her continue to describe herself, and she really describes herself as like a super amphibious looking being. She has like skinny legs. She has like a greenish, darkish, blackish type of skin. some sort of tail on her, very aquatic looking. She said that she was wearing a cloak too, and she felt very masculine in this form. I always laugh at these types of descriptions because if you were going to make up that you were some alien type of being, you would think you would say something very like ethereal, like, oh, I was like this blonde-haired, blue-eyed Pleiadian or something. But that's like usually not the case. When I've gone to alien past lives with my clients, a lot of times there's some ugly looking creatures. And I just don't think they would make that shit up. Like, would you want to be a male frog looking alien if you could make up some otherworldly creature that you were in a past life? I mean, maybe, but like, I don't think so. So after describing herself, she also mentioned that there's a being next to her, but it's not the same type of being that she is. This is a light being that she describes. It doesn't have a form. It's just like a pillar of light. She also continues to look around and she discovers that she's on a spacecraft. She sees a huge window. She sees theater-like seats. And out the window, she sees a visual of Earth at the bottom left corner of the window, and elsewhere, it's just blackness and outer space. I'm curious where this being is even from. She's clearly not on Earth, and she's a frog-like being, but she's not exactly a frog that's unintelligent as we know it. And so I ask if she can ask anyone around where she's from. So she goes to that light being who was next to her, who she felt a strong kinship with, and that light being told her she's from Andromeda. I'm wondering what these Andromeda beings are doing on this ship, clearly observing Earth out that window with the theater seats in front of it. And so I ask her what happens next, and she says that they fly past Earth deeper into space and that they're going on a mission. This whole time, she's also very anxious and not confident at all. So these are very prominent feelings for her. She's not really in the best state of mind here. I ask her what this mission is, and she says it's to save Earth. When I ask, what are you saving Earth from? She says destruction. She mentions that the humans are destroying Earth and they're basically imploding it from the inside out based on their actions on this planet. So I ask how she plans to help them. What does this mission entail? And she says it entails incarnating. So we did in fact move her to the point in time when she was deciding to incarnate. It just wasn't a typical scenario where you were in spirit form deciding to take on a human body. She happened to be a frog-like alien. I ask if she is excited for this mission or if she feels confident about it, and she's not. She feels worried. She's not sure if it's going to be successful. And she elaborates that this would be her first time on Earth, and she's really not looking forward to it. So this is going to be an entirely new experience for her. And this, I would imagine, is why when she was born that day, she felt highly anxious in that human form. I'm super curious what goes into preparing for one of these missions. She told me she was watching a screen in the beginning, so I have her elaborate on that. And she says that you essentially watch the screen to prepare, and you watch other people's lifetimes to kind of give you a feeling about what Earth life is all about. She also elaborates that one of the lifetimes that she watches is the lifetime of Jesus. And I ask what can she learn from his lifetime, and she mentions love and light. I'm also highly curious how she decides what body she's going to incarnate into, what family she's going to incarnate into. So I start asking her those types of questions. She did mention one of the things that she was meant to help with on Earth was the balancing of the divine feminine energy. So that helped her decide that she wants to choose a female form when she incarnates on Earth. She also says that motherhood is something else that will help her with restoring the balance of the divine feminine energy. So she knows she's going to be a mom in this upcoming lifetime as well. I then ask her if she knows who her children will be in this lifetime, and immediately her attention is brought to another being next to her who she recognizes as her son in her current lifetime. I ask her to describe him, and she starts laughing, saying he looks like a little toad being. So he's the same type of being that she is. She also notices that there are 2 eggs besides her as well, and these will also be her children, except even on the ship, these eggs hadn't hatched yet, so she didn't really actually know them yet. She was also going through what she described as like a catalog to essentially choose the family that she would incarnate into. She was very nonchalant about this process too. It was almost as if she wasn't taking it very seriously because she didn't really want to be doing it to begin with. She was just scrolling through this catalog, looking at different people's faces and basically deciding who she would want her mother to be. Eventually, she landed on her mother in this lifetime, and she chose her because she had a beautiful smile and felt that this woman would really give her the love that she needed. Love was going to be very important to her in childhood because it would help with the density of the earthly experience. I also asked her how it works when she finally decides to begin her incarnation. What does that process look like? And she saw herself going down a clear tube that went off of the ship. And as she was going through this tube, it was like her toad or frog-like body dissipated and she became this light being, kind of like the one that was next to her the whole time and answered her questions. She then felt this feeling of connecting to her current form. So that was pretty cool, but then I ended up taking her back onto the ship because we had more things we needed to explore. After that, I have her move back in time because I want to see the place that she comes from. We know she's on this ship doing this mission, but what is her home planet like? And she describes it as looking kind of like Earth, but different. It was very lush with greenery. There was lots of water, of course, because she was an aquatic creature. She also saw like monkey-like beings swinging through the trees. I asked her if there were any types of buildings or structures. And at first she said no, that there just seemed to be a lot of nature. But eventually she went underwater and she realized that that's where the majority of life exists there. And there are buildings and structures under the water there. She said there were plenty of different kinds of beings, and they were like rock-like homes that the beings lived in, and she lived in one of them herself. The only thing she really described existing within her home was this small pyramid that was basically built into the house. It was made of the same rock-like material as the house, and it was a pyramid with a beam of light going through the center. She said the light originated from the core of the planet and it connects to source, and this is basically how they receive any type of information from source. I asked what type of information, and she said it mostly has to do with love, but eventually it came about that this pyramid is what told her she needed to go on this Earth mission. I was asking more about daily life on this planet too, such as if they need food to survive, and she basically said there's some vegetation, but it basically already exists within the water. They don't have jobs or careers, they just have to be and exist and enjoy. It's a very simple life, and it's very happy. They do live with family in the sense that she felt she lived with children. However, she didn't necessarily feel there was any type of romance or romantic partner that you link up with in those types of lives. She said she felt that she was the only maternal type of being for these children, which I found to be interesting because she had also mentioned that she felt masculine earlier in the regression. So she was both masculine and maternal in this type of life. The biggest takeaway from this part of the regression was that it was a very free type of life. There was no sense of duty, really. So as you can imagine, when she was called to do this Earth mission and she felt very worried about it, it makes sense why she would not want to go to Earth. We have a lot of duty and responsibility here. So to go from a life like that to a life like this would probably make you kind of anxious. After that, I moved her forward in time to see if we can go to any other important events that happened in that lifetime. So when I moved her forward to another important day, she actually ended up leapfrogging, no pun intended, to her current lifetime, except she went to a scene in the future. So something that hadn't even happened yet. It just shows how much you can really explore during these regressions, and it's not always past lives. What was really interesting about seeing this future scene in her life, though, was that it actually wasn't the most pleasant experience. And I mean that in a sense that her life didn't seem happy and fulfilling. And so I was a little curious, why are we seeing this? I never want my clients to see something that's going to upset them, but I always trust that what they see is purposeful for them and that they can handle it, which was true because my client was a champ at navigating this. She was perfectly fine the whole time. And I think if this was something she couldn't handle, she wouldn't have seen it. I'm not going to get into too many details here, but I will say that she saw herself in a relationship that just felt unloving and unfulfilling. Her own family was not approving of this relationship. And there were important people who are in her life currently that were no longer in her life in this scene. Eventually, when we went to the subconscious, her subconscious mind explained to her that this is just a potential outcome for her future. So it served as a warning, and this is something she can totally combat if she does not want that to be her future. So in that sense, it was very purposeful. It showed her that she needs to take charge of her life and change certain things that are currently happening in order to live a life that feels more aligned and more in control and more fulfilling for her. So that's all I'm going to get into with this lifetime for now, but I have so many more stories as always, but I'll save them for another time. If you have any questions at all, please let me know below. Other than that, I'll catch you guys next time. Do I have to say hi every time I start a new video?